My name is Martin Klaassen, and welcome to another episode of Light Talk, conversations with experts in their field. Now, not long after the previous conversation I had with Joachim, I had a similar discussion with a very special guest called Arjan de Boer. Arjan, besides being a fellow Dutchman, is also a hotelier, an investor and a property owner. Property developer. And the discussion we had was specifically interesting for me because he was able to point out to me the value that lighting adds to hotels, for instance. What is the added value that lighting brings, not so much only with the experience of being in a hotel, but also how it helps raise revenues. So I would say a very interesting conversation, and certainly very enjoyable to listen to. My name is Martin Klaassen, and welcome to another edition of Light Talk, where we interview and speak to experts in their field. Today we have a very special guest, Arjan de Boer, who is an hotelier, who is an investor, a developer, with a great affinity to lighting. So welcome, Arjan.
Thank you, Martin.
We are here at your co-working space, District 6. But perhaps to start off, maybe you can give us a bit of background. Who is Arjan de Boer and what does he do?
My name is Arjan de Boer. I've been in hotels my whole life. I'm Dutch, obviously, as you can tell from my accent. I've been living half my life in Asia, originally from Staphorst in the Netherlands. And enjoy hotel development, but also co-working space development, and that has led to many other things, including hotel tech investments, amongst other interests that we have.
So you started your own company now in C2 Holdings Asia. Yeah. What is that all about?
In C2 Asia Holdings is a startup company that we started 2.5 years ago, together with my partners York and Yuta. We started a company where we felt that we can actually differentiate in the hotel development environment, but also be trend-setting with regards to prop tech, co-working spaces, which actually in a way link to hotel development. It's just a portion of.
Yes.
So we've started 2.5 years ago. We now have 3 offices, one in Tokyo, one in Bali, and one here in Singapore. This is also our head office. And
nice spaces, nice places.
Thank you. I'm glad you like it. It's been District 6 for us was really became an incubator. We wanted it to be an environment for property technology, also for lighting consultants, for lighting designers, for people that work in real estate developments. Yeah. Across different types of real estate developments. So whether it would be high-rise real estate relating to offices or residential or hotels, didn't really matter, but we did feel that in the co-working space there was a lack of space for professionals that are related to both the traditional way of developing real estate, so architects, interior designers, lighting designers, project managers, quantity surveyors, mechanical engineers, structural engineers, and everybody who's trying to disrupt that traditional way of real estate development. So property technology companies, startup companies, and that's what we've been working on. District 6 as an incubator for us, for C2 Asia, has brought us introductions to up to 60, 70 different companies. We've run, I would say, 50 to 60 events here over the last year.
Cool.
Relating to blockchain, relating to property technology, relating to so many different things. So it's been a learning curve for us too, but a very exciting one.
Okay. We'll get back to the technology of today in a little while. I want to step back a little bit and go back to when we first met. Quite a number of years back, you were doing a big presentation about hospitality and sustainability at that time. I thought, oh, this guy is interesting. And he's Dutch, so I thought, okay, let's talk to each other. At that time, you're working for the Alila group in hospitality. So I would like to understand a little bit your role at the time and how we linked up, because I was obviously in lighting design and you had a great interest in lighting. So maybe you can tell me a little bit about what hospitality means and how lighting improves or supports the mission from hoteliers.
Well, my background at that time was, I came from operations. So I had done almost 10 years in hotel operations and moved to development. So in the development space, you start working on greenfields developments. You work with architects, interior designers, lighting designers, greenfields, renovation projects, takeovers. And I realized that in that space, whether it is a greenfield or a renovation project, it doesn't really matter. Lighting is a very important part of the positioning and the brand positioning of that particular property. So it doesn't matter if you're working on a city hotel or a resort hotel. Lighting is an environment that is often overlooked or is often value engineered to the point where you just don't really add value to the development anymore. And that's why I started having an interest in it. Everything that has to do with hotel design has my interest.
Yeah, but what exactly is it that lighting brings to the table? Because you talk about added value. I've heard you talked about value propositions and revenue indicators and things like that.
Yeah, it's about creating good spaces. It's about creating spaces where you maximize the utilization of every square foot in a space. If the space is well designed and has proper lighting through all the different solutions in PropTech today, you will be able to basically measure data that tells you whether this space is, first well used and well utilized by individual people, but also in a certain function. So whether this would be a hotel lobby or a cafe or a meeting room or a conference room or even a hotel room, this data will tell you how this room and how this space is being used. And a lot of that has to do with lighting. A lot of that has to do with providing a human space that is comfortable for people to work in, or a space where people feel comfortable and a space where they want to be. And some of that has to do with natural lighting and with floor-to-ceiling height windows, like the space here. But also a lot of that has to do with the lighting design that goes into the space.
It reinforces architecture, obviously. It helps you with wayfinding.
Yes.
And I think I heard you use that term for the first time. It can create those money shots where you look at a space and you say, wow, that's it. And that's where you take your picture and which you use for promotions and marketing.
Yeah. I mean, Instagram, Facebook, there's so many different ways of promoting your brand and promoting your property these days. It's important to show that some of those shots are just ideal, as in they are pictures that people relate to, and there are lighting environments that people relate to. Sometimes that's a very intimate setting in a romantic environment for a night shot where people can see themselves taking their loved ones there on their honeymoon or a special occasion or a wedding anniversary. And those shots are extremely important. They add value, they add property value, they add marketing value, PR value, and once people relate to these. I've stopped using the word money shot.
Maybe it's not the right word.
Maybe not the right word. Let's call it the signature shot.
Yeah.
It's the signature shot that people relate to when they think about
which they remember.
Which they remember. That's it.
That's it. They go back with the memories, and when they're actually at the hotel, they probably go and take pictures there and things like that.
Yes, and when they go through their phones and they have all their pictures on their phones, they delete 85% of those pictures. Right. These are the pictures that they would never delete.
But I think as a designer, I agree. Maybe money shot is not the right word. Signature shot is maybe a better thing. But as a designer, we always look also at finding these locations in a project. So we take special attention to help create that environment as well? Because for us, also we like to see the environment, like to support the architecture. We always like to feel when we go into a space, this is really, it feels like home maybe, or a space where you can imagine that the guest will really feel very comfortable and at ease and at peace. Now, you talked about data. Right now, how do you collect data if you want to understand how they use space? Because we have limited amount of sensors and data collectors at the moment. It's developing very fast in the new world of IoT, but what is it that you do now, and what is it that you can see is going to happen in the near future?
We started a project here at District 6 with multiple third-party companies.
Yes.
Each of these companies have a specialty, whether it is furniture or whether it is motion sensors, whether it is air quality sensors. And that collaboration became extremely interesting. Whereas the collaboration of that data is then shared between all the different parties that work together. So in this space where we have 24 offices, a flex desk area, five meeting rooms, an event space, a coffee shop, you start collecting data of how the space is being used, what are the most comfortable seats, or what are the most popular seating spaces within that space. Now from a commercial perspective, real estate developers or management companies would look at how to maximize their returns. So they would look at how they could maximize a premium price for a certain seat or a premium price for a certain office. And they would look at the timing and the utilization of the coffee shop. So for example, if your coffee shop runs a busy day, 150 to 200 cups of coffee in a time frame from 11 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you still have every option to utilize that space for an event the same day at 6 o'clock in the evening. Because you'll set up at 5 o'clock, your event's at 6 o'clock, you run it till 9 o'clock. So there's multiple revenue streams for each individual space, and sometimes that relates to hours, sometimes that relates to days. We have days where certain facilities are not used, for example Sunday, and having received that data from looking at your weekly and your monthly data, you realize that Sunday your meeting rooms are underutilized. So what are you looking for? You're looking basically for educational specialists that require office spaces or meeting rooms or event spaces on a non-traditional business day, and they will take that space on a Sunday and say, look, this is perfect for us because the space is available, there's no heavy traffic on a Sunday. So, and this is what all this data tells you. And it's almost like people start talking more and more about artificial intelligence and AI and how you start monitoring buildings. And I think all these elements are part of that.
The big challenge that we see now is that each individual technology, so to speak, whether it's air quality measurement or lighting measurements or people motion sensing, these are all individual silos of data collection. And what we're looking for now is this integration, this horizontal platform that links everything together. You're aware of our lighting design of things platform. One of the reasons I'm here also, and we have been speaking on conventions together on this. So you're very well aware and you understand what we're trying to do, but maybe in your own words, can you give a bit of your take on this, how we are trying to integrate this? Because right now, this integration, the miniaturization of the sensors and the fact that you can have multiple sensing devices in one tiny little sensor opens up a host of new opportunities. And because lighting is available in each and every building and in each and every space, and with the LED technology, it's already also a digital hub, as it were. It becomes a perfect host for all these data infrastructures. And that's what we are trying to do now also in your District 6 now to implement that. But maybe from your own take, what are your thoughts about these new developments that you see? Maybe not only lighting design of things, but from other angles as well.
Actually, the key is collaboration. It's collaboration.
Yeah.
It's working with asset owners, asset managers, with property management systems, building management systems, you basically put 5 or 6 of the stakeholders together that may have an interest in that, and you run it together with them.
Yeah.
You can always sign all the NDAs and make sure that none of these details get disclosed to third parties, but at the same time, every entity or every stakeholder in that space would have a different objective. So for as long as you can bring these people together and work together and share that information and share that data, there's always ways to commercialize that.
Yeah.
And lighting, I think, is an important part of that, because it's the one element within every single space that covers the total floor plan of all the offices and all the different areas.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think lighting could be a very important part of that integration throughout the space.
It is still something that we are exploring, and that we are seeing how we can develop that further. So I'm very excited to be part of this PropTech event that we're trying to implement here, and we'll see how the results come out with that.
I think everybody is looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's true. Now, we are both from Dutch descent, so to speak, and we have both been living in this part of the world for quite a long time. Do you think there's any cultural differences in the way we see things or the way we appreciate things? Because obviously you can compare of what's happening here right now. We are in Singapore, but we can also compare with what happens. You have offices in Japan, you have offices in Indonesia, but with your contacts also back in Europe. Do you see any differences or any different ways that people approach this new world of IoT and integration of data analytics? Is there some differences in the way people do it here or over there?
I can't really comment on that. I've been away from the Netherlands for too long.
I was hoping you could, because I'm in the same boat.
No, actually, we don't have offices in Europe. We don't have large projects in Europe, and our focus is really Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure that there are startups, in Europe, in the UK, elsewhere, but I just see that there's in terms of the government here in Singapore is really welcoming startup companies.
Yes.
For a small and medium enterprise to start up, a startup company here, looking at new ideas or integration of all different elements that can disrupt the real estate space. This is a very good space to be, because you have access to programmers, you have access to government grants, you have access to a really good setup for any business to start up, really.
One of the big difference I know is that in Europe they already have the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, which is not yet enforced here. Yet privacy and issues we have seen also with Facebook and social media, it may be something that on a cultural level also may be quite challenging, that people are more quickly, or maybe not, feel invaded in their privacy with all these data collectors and sensors and what have you, cameras. What do you think about all that?
I think you have to treat that very carefully. Obviously data is important, but at the same time, privacy is a requirement. So I think the government here in Singapore is pretty clear on what is allowed and what is not allowed. And I think that there will be more and more regulations being implemented throughout Southeast Asia.
Should be, surely, have to be.
That's the expectation.
Now, as lighting designers, we always bank on certain budgets that are available for lighting design. Now that we are trying to integrate data infrastructures into lighting points, do you think there will be different sorts of budgets and different sort of thinkings from the client into bringing this to reality? Because for us, what we're trying also to find is, how do we now talk to a developer, a real estate developer? We used to talk to them about lighting. Now suddenly we start to talk about a totally different subject, which I think also we may be talking to different people.
You most likely will talk to different people. you'll probably, instead of talking to the traditional technical services teams in buildings or in design teams or in brands, you'll probably talk more to the CTOs of the development companies. All companies are looking into data, but also data protection.
Yeah.
All companies are looking at solutions that will provide value to their business environment, and also to be up to date with what is available in the market today. I think this is a trend that you can't stop. That this will happen, and
whether it's a scary thing, I guess.
It could be a scary thing. It may not be such a scary thing. I think these days systems are changing so quickly. People are used to change.
Yeah.
People are used to basically getting a new handphone every 6 months because there's a new version of the Samsung or.
That's true, but it's so speedy that it's quite challenging to keep up with everything.
That's true.
That's what I really find, because that's why I call it scary, but maybe it's not scary. It's maybe the challenge to keep up with the speed of development.
I think it's just keep on educating yourself, and for as long as you're collaborating with a whole group of stakeholders that have an interest in the same space, maybe not directly lighting, maybe it's real estate assets, maybe it's the performance of lighting, maybe it's utility cost savings, but the additional cost saving in addition to LED. All of that, for as long as you stay connected to that space, you'll be aware of what is changing in the market. And once that initial change is then adopted by the complete market, it's a matter of time. When new buildings get built, greenfield developments get built, it will become a norm for these systems to become implemented.
Now, slightly different subject. We have both been involved in speaking engagements, in conventions, and we're both off to the Smart Building Convention to talk about, in my case, line design things. In your case, I guess, about added value that smart systems may bring to hospitality and co-working spaces. Now that you've also been in touch with the lighting design community through those conventions, we just had a Professional Lighting Designers Convention in Singapore. I think you get a better feel of what lighting designers are and what the community is. Any feedback on how you feel what these bunch of lighting people are and what they do and how they approach the world that you work in?
I think the lighting designer community, I think, is a very passionate bunch, and I think they are always willing to create good design. I think in the future, I come back to what I mentioned earlier: collaboration.
Yeah.
It's more and more about collaboration and integration with other systems and other environments and in the real estate space.
Yeah.
And looking at the lighting design conference that I attended this week, it's a great environment, but if you look at the evolvement of lighting design and how that translates to the number of startups that are out there in that space to disrupt the traditional lighting design, there are very few. And I think it would be, and I think there is interest. There will be interest. It may not be from the traditional lighting design environment. It might be Google or Amazon or another company developing solutions for certain environments. But that it's a learning process, and whoever is willing to get on board of that learning process and take an interest in it and spend time on it, it will just be a lot of fun.
It is a change that's happening. I think there's no doubt about it. And when I speak to the design community, the lighting design community, it's like they're on the fence. Is it really happening? Do I need to make the change? But I think we can quite safely say that the change is happening.
It's definitely happening, for sure. 100% it's happening. So,
Arjan, thank you very much for your input. It's really enlightening to hear about an outsider's view on lighting. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, Martin.